a new rise. Can somebody lift those hands and say, it's a new rise. I need you to speak it over your own life tonight. It's a new rise. It's a new rise.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Propel Deep Dive Global. I'm Megan DiMartino, and I am your host this evening for a compelling conversation with my beautiful and exciting guest, Shawnte Health Wells. But before I invite Shawnte to join us, I just would like to share a little bit about the Propel program, what we're doing here on the Propel community, and invite you to join us on this journey. Many years ago, I started my first skincare business, Glycolique, and have been evolving those businesses, and I say those because they're all synergistically tied together with the second skincare brand, Novitas Spa Clinicals, and then the I hesitate because I call it a hybrid, a luxury day medical clinical wellness spa. And with that, we did many, many things, but never, ever compromising on pampering and true results for the guest. And that is all tied together with my skincare product brand, Novitas Spa Clinicals. In 2019, I launched or added regenerative stem cell into the business, and we built that as well. And then in 20, someone approached me about purchasing my business, and I did not sell the trade name Novitas Spa, which is federally trademarked, the skincare brand Novitas Spa Clinicals, and the URL novitasspa.com. I share this because I have been building this brand for 35 years. And with that, we're now focused on health and wellness. And after I sold the asset purchase and continued to do the regenerative stem cell, I knew that it was time to give back to you and help you start, scale, and sustain the business and life of your dreams. Because if you don't have a life and you just have a business, you just have created a job for yourself. So it's very important to understand that and really work towards that synergy of the two together. So I started the Propel Your Business and Life Activation Program and launched that in 22. And so you can find that on the link to all of the Propel programs. And then last year, I started the Propel Deep Dive, which we're doing tonight. In 20, I launched Unique Leaders Live, which was a live interview as well as a podcast. So then I just segued it over to Propel. So you can find all of these on YouTube. So go to official Megan DiMartino. You can find the Unique Leaders Lives. And then you can also find a year and several months of the Propel program of the interviews like we're doing tonight with Shawnte. So it's just so important for you to plug in to this, because not only do we do the Propel Deep Dive on Wednesday evenings, but in the community, when you join us, you receive my Propel Daily, which is a little nugget of inspiration and encouragement, a weekly newsletter of encouragement or theme of business building from myself, and again, other programs that I do with guests like Shawnte. We just did the Propel Empowerment Expansion Challenge a couple of weeks ago. 8 amazing leaders and legends joined me with that. So I'm always putting together things, guys. So you need to join the Propel community to get these pieces of information like you would have received tonight, a link and saying tonight's the night, and pop on to this Propel Deep Dive. This is streaming out live to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, but you will get the inside scoop when you join the Propel community. So that's just a little bit of what I'm doing, and I'm here to help you start, scale, and sustain the business and life of your dreams. So the Propel Deep Dive Global, and I say global because I interview people from all over the world, is a program that I want my guests to share with you their journey of what brought them today, because all of these individuals are leaders and legends in their own fields and in their own lives. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you my dear friend and colleague, Shawnte Health Wells. Good evening.
Good evening. Woo! So good to see you.
I love that. I love that. Well, Shawnte, before we go into, me asking you a little bit about young Shawnte, I just want to share a bit about my recollection and connection with you. We both met on Breakfast with Champions on the audio app Clubhouse. And I have known Glenn Lundy, the founder of Breakfast with Champions, since 2018. So I'm a rise and grinder. I'm an OG rise and grinder. And so when he when Clubhouse started, I should say, and he decided to do a room, he said to all of us, hey, come on, let's go, type of thing. And I mean, I didn't even have an iPhone. I had to get an iPhone and we had to be invited in and yeah. So anyway, over time, and in those early days, those rooms were huge and there were so many people coming and going and adding such amazing content and heart and soul. As time went on, I started hearing your voice because, again, we didn't see each other. This is the first time we're actually seeing each other, so to speak. And but I heard that voice, what you just, woo, did right there. And
Yes.
it was like, whoa, who is that, on this audio app? Because there's a little teeny icon. And then you get to know people by their voices. And it's such an amazing journey. And you and I both, I'm sure, have had experiences now in meeting people, not just, electronically here, but in real time. So one of these days, my friend, we will meet in real time. So, so that's, the background of how we actually met. But a couple of months ago, you asked me if I would, now you have your own segment on Breakfast with Champions, and you asked if I would do, and you may have others, but you have one on Saturday morning. And you asked if I would be your guest where you would interview me. And I was like, well, of course. I was very honored to, be asked by you and to join you. But in my mind, I'm saying, there's zillions of people out there, not just on Breakfast with Champions, I'm saying, that you could have invited to, interview. And when you explained how you heard me speak about stem cell was one of those connecting things with you. We'll go further into that, but I'm sharing that from the position of how we are hearing each other and how we're connecting with each other. And like tonight, how we're going to connect with others who are going to hear us. So my heart, Shawnte, with the Propel deep dive, and as I shared in the intro, I started this actually in March of 20 during the lockdown of COVID. And I said to myself, because I've done Facebook Lives and all that stuff for years, but I said to myself during that season that it was such a season of unknown. And I was being asked to be on other people's podcasts. And I said to myself, I want to not just share about business, but have people share about themselves and share about, meaning, like for instance, Sharon Lechter. Now, Sharon Lechter, 3 Feet from Gold, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, co-author. I mean, I've had the blessing to get to know Sharon. So I asked Sharon to join us, and she said, of course. And so I didn't ask her on any level about her business acumen or so forth. I asked her about young Sharon and what catalyst and what internal thread through Sharon led her to who she is today. Because my heart is to help people that are listening to us, Shawnte, know that we're not just these smarty pants that end up right here. No, 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 no. We have had a journey ourselves with ups, downs, ins, outs, and around the barn that led us to today. But without, I read your bio, and without hearing one word yet, I know as I know that young Shawnte had a thread of this in her back in the day. So,
Absolutely.
so with that, now that's my kind of intro here of what, we do. Like I said to you, I'll do all the heavy lifting, so what I want you to share with our guests who are listening and who will listen on replays on YouTube and all of these other platforms. It's also a podcast on Spotify and other platforms, podcasting platforms. So I want you to share a bit about young Shawnte, where you grew up, a bit about your background, and you are a health professional, and lead into a background to yourself.
Absolutely. Well, I am Shawnte Health Wells. I am originally born and raised in Miami, Florida. So I call myself a Miami peach because of my family's roots in Georgia. But my grandparents ensured that we got to Miami. So I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. And from early childhood, there were two things for me. It was the curiosity that I had and my grandmother. Like, that's where I'd like to start my story from, is just that impact that my grandparents had. Like, they were truly, I don't know if it's something that maybe in modern times, maybe people can't relate to, but grandparents were, at least from what I remember in the 70s and 80s, they were very involved in the upbringing of the grandchildren. So my grandma, she made sure I went to Sunday school. I went to Bible study with her. I spent so much time every single day at her feet. So I got to see life through the lens of not just my peers, but someone who had seen a whole lot. And I grew up in a lot of poverty, around a lot of violence. But I felt like my grandmother, in so many ways, shielded me and kind of put me in a cocoon, because she could see and feel that I was different. I was very, very different than the traditional kid that grew up in the rough areas of Miami. And I think understanding that there wasn't a lot of food, understanding that there were plenty of nights that I went to bed hungry, not because there were items to eat in the kitchen that, I just didn't want. No, there was nothing. That meant there was no mayonnaise. There was nothing, that any edible food that I could actually consume as a child. So I think noticing that level of poverty, and yet and still my grandmother, she just was never like upset or angry. And I just I was just so curious as to why she wasn't upset, or why she didn't react or respond to certain, even when people would come around and would just, start fussing and doing all these things. She just always was in control of herself. She was what I consider the first self-actualized human being, that before I had language. I later learned about it in school when I realized that's exactly what it was. So when you have an example like that, you have a blueprint as to how you should conduct yourself. It gave me, I felt, an edge and an incentive and an advantage, even in a disadvantage on the outside, circumstance. My grandmother knew me, and it reminds me of the Bible. Like when it says, I think people take it one way when they say Adam knew his wife, but I think there's just something deeper there. When someone knows you, it gives you a whole nother level of like being and wholeness and confidence. So for me, it helped me combat a lot of the violence and all of the negativity that constantly came to me. Oh, you're ugly, or you're too tall, or I'm bigger than the other kids. And, it was just all these things that had come comment, oh, you guys are poor. You're not shopping at the store. You got to go to the farm, or your shoes and not, smelling like chicken grease. It was, we had some real problems, Megan. I couldn't afford lotion. That was a luxury. Do you know what I mean? But
I do.
Being able to still continue on, like I knew that school was my way, my ticket out. And my grandmother, she believed in me. She sowed seeds in me, telling me that I was going to do something different, that I would be the one to save the family, and I would turn everything around in my family, and I would be the first person to get on an airplane. She had vision even in an impoverished situation. She was a sharecropper. My grandparents were sharecroppers from Georgia. From Georgia.
Yes, I assumed that's what you was her background. What do you feel? And feel is not the right word. I mean, feel and observe helped her. Was it her faith, Shawnte, that helped her be this self-actualized person, meaning that she truly understood the word of God? Is that really the essence?
Absolutely. But I think she also had this uncurable belief and love for people. I've just never seen, Megan, you could have came and you were just screaming at the top of your lungs. It never moved her. She could still get you to do whatever it was she wanted you to do. And she stayed within her calm, she had this huge smile. She was so persuasive. Like she had that thing. And I think she really, when I heard her talk about people, it was almost as if she didn't believe that they could naturally be that angry or that bad. It's like she looked at them through the lens that I believe God wants us to look at people with. She saw the good, and she just thought, oh, they just lost their way. And I would sit there and think like, no, they're cursing and screaming at the top of their lungs. But I really, truly think it was that belief in the word of God. And she was definitely a praying woman, and she prayed for me. I truly believe that's the only way I made it out of that circumstance. And she truly believed in people and the goodness in people, which was so unusual, know?
And you said, in that time frame, I'm thinking back how my grandmother, my Italian immigrant grandmother, was so important in my life and my siblings' lives. And then I think back to my daughters and my parents and my ex-husband's parents, how important they were to these gals. But that whole thing, that lineage relationship has truly broken down in the last 20 years. It's just, I mean, I'm not saying no one has relationships with their grandparents, but I can see that it is not as given as it was, it just was part of people's lives. But more importantly is your grandmother, meaning that she was a special human. She was a special person, and God, Jeremiah 29:11, God has a plan, and you were, mightily blessed by, what was her name? Your grandmother?
Maybelle Wells. That's why in my intro I say that. I tell people I'm Maybelle's granddaughter. I'm Maybelle's granddaughter.
I love
Maybelle
it.
Wells.
I love it. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, because Maybelle just truly, like you said, saw you. And, but she also saw the guy running down the road screaming, meaning that, oh, he just lost his way. And she's right, because again, we could go off into a whole other direction, but, Jesus, he wasn't fazed by people that were demon possessed, and so she just shared that unconditional love, that and understanding. Yes. Wow.
That's the perfect word.
Have you ever written anything about Maybelle?
No, and that's something when I listened to Barbara when I was sharing about it, because her birthday was Saturday. So April 27th is such a special day. And I said I wanted to do a grand opening and open a health class in my school, name it after her, in her honor, because she's the reason why I got into the health industry. But I want to work on that and pin some things specifically about her and that impact.
Yeah, because you can take the essence of Maybelle, and it's just like this Propel, meaning to help people see that now we're going to now go into, you went to college. I mean, so you went on to school and went to college, and So share with our guests so they see very clearly that this was it could have gone many different directions. But you, with the guidance and love and prayer from you went on. So share about your journey then into because again, you share that your name is Shawnte Health Wells. And so share about that dynamic.
So I have to start you at 1989. So
Okay.
my grandmother passed away with me. It was just she and I. And I felt so inadequate because I couldn't save her. And, the nurse had showed me so many things to do. And I was only 11 years old at the time. And so I still felt that sense of responsibility, like I should have known more. If I was smarter or if I had just been better, not fully understanding that you're a
Sure.
kid. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know how to save a life,
Right.
at that point in time. But that was that catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about all of the things that she had told me and understanding the price that they both paid for us to have a better life in Miami. So no matter what has come my way, that has been that catalyst. It was not easy. My mother did not. She forbid me at first. When I said I wanted to go to college, that was a hard no. No, no, no. And I graduated early because I had skipped grades because I was really smart. I was in the gifted, classes. So I was too young. I needed my parents' signature to get into college. I had my dream was FSU, got a full ride. I was smart. I went to the same high school as Jeff Bezos. So, I was trained very well. Yeah. Yeah, so my school experience was unlike what most people experience in high school. Like they trained us and talked to us as if we would be leaders. That's why it's no surprise if you look across the state of Florida. You look at even the latest judge that was appointed came from that high school, and it was because of the way that our teachers taught us.
Wow.
It instilled that. It was very similar to the thing that my grandmother was always about: vision and goals and strategies and tactics and what were you going to do, and entrepreneurship was a huge part. We didn't have a regular teacher that taught us economics. It was a multimillionaire who was an oil guy who taught us economics. So we learned business for real. So even when I said I wanted to be in health, it was like, yeah, I understand, but what type of health business then do you want? So that seed was planted and fertilized in high school. So when I got to college, I was light years ahead of other college students that were trying to figure, that out. So I was able to set ambitious goals. So I knew I was going to get my certification in sports medicine. And I knew that I wanted to go beyond where any woman had gone before. And guess what? Which my goal was the Super Bowl. And guess what? After 17 no's, you know who got a yes from the Super Bowl? I did.
Amen.
So it was that I would not give up. I just did not quit. You have to be willing to get the no's. You have to be willing to put in the work. You have to be willing to train, even when it's not easy. Hurricanes came our way. I'm in Florida. There were so many obstacles that came. I was a young, unwed mother. So I was trying to navigate all of that at the same time with a business, having gone through, losses in my business, being ripped off by business partners. There were so many things that could have caused me to quit. But every single dark moment that I've ever had, you know who I think about? My grandmother. Scrubbing those floors, and my grandfather, cleaning those hotels. I think about their sacrifice. And I said, I don't care how bad any day gets for me. I don't have the right to quit. There's a price on my head, Megan, and I understand that. So I think of that gratitude. I know that I was their pride and joy, and I refuse to let their sacrifice be in vain. I'm Maybelle's granddaughter.
Was she, what's your grandfather's name?
James.
So James
and Mabel.
James and Maybelle are up in heaven, or wherever, up, down, around, wherever they are with you. And they are so proud and so joyful that you are doing and have done. But one of the things that is so clear to me about you is that, many people use the term gratitude, many. And it is truly a foundational mindset to success. There's just no other way. I assume that once you mentioned Jeff Bezos, I assume that once you get into a trajectory of, success, you may forget gratitude. I'm not saying Mr. Bezos isn't grateful. I'm not saying that. I don't know the gentleman. But what I'm saying is that it is a common denominator. We hear it all the time. But there's no doubt to me, my friend, that you have, and again, this gets back to Maybelle and James, is that you mentioned the word marinade and, just a part of you, that it's part of your DNA, that you are, my dad, Ray DiMartino, like you said, he knew that he was an immigrant's son. And he was pretty good in sports. And so he played football. But this is back in the day when it was not very sophisticated. But he knew that college and education was his ticket out of poverty. And so he got a football scholarship to Manhattan College, which, I can't even believe they have a football team. But the point is that he understood that, he understood that education was that importance. But he said to me, Shawnte, the last thing he said to me, well, let me say it this way. The last time I was with him was at my mother's funeral, and he passed 4 months later. So it was like The Notebook. And they had a blessed life. They never, truly, she was 96, he was 94. Exactly. And they did not live in assisted living. They had a blessed life. So we're sitting at the kitchen tables early morning, and I knew he was going to be up early. And so I came down, I made him some coffee, and we were sitting there, and he said to me, you're very lucky. So I said, what script are you reading, pal? And because I've had a lot of challenges. But he said, you're very lucky. I said, okay. I knew there was a point. And I said, okay, why am I lucky? He said, because you have a happy heart. And so that is exactly you as well, meaning that no matter what happens, we approach it from that looking at because joy is a choice, to choose that essence. And so you have, with as single mom, building your businesses, having your businesses challenged by other people. Yes, I've been there, done that. Yes, and yes. But again, those are training ground to do it differently the next time. So share with our guests about what you're doing currently, meaning like you mentioned the Super Bowl, you had that goal. And so after 17 no's, you made it. But what did that look like? Because again, obviously we're not playing football. So, tell us what that looked like. Because I know that everyone was like, well, what does that mean? So how and what did you do?
It's this book, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Megan, I'm telling you, high school, this is where it was introduced to me. So think about that, the type of influence that this had. And it's like they had already set us up in a way to script our setbacks. Because imagine the advantage you have. That's why I can never let this book go. I have had it with me the entire time. Because when you read about the suffering that Viktor Frankl has gone through, and it was for me, although I wasn't in a concentration camp, I could identify with a lot of the pain that he, felt. And not only that, the curiosity that he had, and he spoke to that in the book. And for me, Curious George was one of my favorite characters. And so having that point of curiosity and something to reference back to, that no matter what my outside circumstances were, Viktor Frankl said that I'm free on the inside. You can control the outside. So the things that happen to my business on the outside, no one could control how I felt and my perspective on it. I was still free. I identified with that freedom that this book really truly, that was that golden nugget that I needed and I held on to for the rest of my life up until this present day. So it looked like when I took my professional board exam. So by trade, I'm what's called an athletic trainer. So you would see these initials. It would say NATA, BOC, meaning you're board certified, ATC, and you're licensed in your state. So whenever there's an injury and at a sporting event, the people that run out on the field, those are athletic, what we call athletic trainers. And so that exam, it's an 8-hour exam. It's extremely difficult. It's also expensive, at least at the time that I had it. I had to fly to Texas. And guess what? I came within 2 points of passing it the first time. So I was devastated. But guess what? No matter what that test result said,
Right.
I opened this up and I said, if he could get through that, I can get through this. I saddled up and I just knew that I knew, you know, in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, that's another book that these two are like my Bibles that I carry in addition to my Bible. And he said, faith is the head chemist of the mind. And so once I already had it set in my mind that I'm passing this test no matter what. I will be licensed. I will be able to provide for my daughter well, and I will be able to realize that dream. I couldn't save my grandmother, but I set a goal, not just only for, you know, the Super Bowl and all these things to make history. I wanted to be able to help save someone else's grandmother. I wanted to be able to save someone else's grandfather or father or sister or brother. So that drive in me, it was cemented. As much as I knew my name, I knew I had passed my board exam. It was an 8-hour exam. And guess what? I got it done the second time around. I didn't care about the facts. I didn't care about the fact that there weren't very many women in my industry and it had a less than a 46% passing rate. Yes, people told me, oh, that's great. You should give up. You didn't pass the first time. Oh, it's no place for women to be. You know, all of this negativity. And I like to use the term Myron Golden uses. He says lie-identities. I had a lot of lie-identities placed around me, but guess what? I didn't let it stop. So I have history. God has shown me, listen, if I use and tap into that faith and I set my mind to do the thing that he's called me to do, there's nothing impossible. Nothing can stop me.
Nothing.
And that's how I operate. That is why I'm able to continue in business to this day. And that's also why I started my Books in the Hood initiative. Books changed my life. It was like that holy grail for me. And so I just want to continue to pay that forward. So not only am I running my health business, my health education business, we do trainings and workshops, you know, for organizations as well as people, you know, everyday people in small groups, churches, libraries, we get called all over the place. But I also, you know, I'm super committed to making sure that books like Viktor Frankl's book or Think and Grow Rich and other people's books get into the hands of young people because I understand the impact that it had on my life. I would not have made it otherwise, Megan. I would not have made it.
You know, I mean, I just, you know, I have listened. I mean, back in the day when cars had, you know, CDs. I mean, I kept playing and playing and playing Think and Grow Rich and Zig Ziglar and others, but certainly Think and Grow Rich. But how this book, let's just talk about this for a second, and then I do want you to share about the Super Bowl. But because you mentioned this, and I've never read this, but I have read pieces of it, and I'm very aware of Viktor Frankl. And so I said, you know, when you mentioned it, it was time. But Viktor Frankl was in a concentration camp, and that's what Shawnte is speaking about. And so he made a concerted decision mindset. I love that quote from Napoleon Hill, that faith is the head chemist. I love that since I'm a skincare manufacturer, head chemist of the mind. And so Viktor Frankl ascribed to that himself. his faith that he was going to, and like you said, curiosity, he looked at it, the glass half full, not half empty. You know, he was curious about what was going on around him, but he made that decision that he was going to get out of that situation. He was going to make it no matter what. And that is so powerful, Shawnte. Not only that it has affected your life greatly, but that you're giving back, that you're sharing with kids and others, you know, with it. But so, like you said, you know, and when you were talking about how you didn't make the first round by 2 points, I was thinking about 3 Feet from Gold, you know, another book of Sharon's. And again, how many times have we given up when, you know, it was just 3 feet away? And that's why I constantly say, if anyone follows me on social media, I'm constantly saying start and don't stop. Because again, it's in that stopping that you will abort your destiny that God has put in, you know, that plan for your life. So we must continue on. If that is, you know, your passion, it will evolve. Absolutely, right? I mean, your career continues to evolve, but it's in the same thread of what you've done and will continue to evolve and just magnify. So share the story about the Super Bowl. How did you get there?
Oh, it started actually before that. And I think a lot of people sometimes don't realize that you need to build up to a certain point. So I was able to finally get the Super Bowl because I had already built up the history. I had already done the Orange Bowl 5 years in a row.
Oh.
So I had history. I had a proven track record. Sometimes people just want to go and, hey, just you're fresh out of, give me this chance just because I want it. But there's no proof of concept. There is no, and you want the largest stage in the world in your industry, yet you have no proof of that you can deliver, you know? And
Yes.
so for me, it started with me showing up, and I volunteered. There was an event, gosh, I forget the name of it. I volunteered my services. The Orange Bowl committee chair happened to be there, was impressed with what I did. And literally just like that, at that free event, see, this is why, you know, I believe my grandmother said you can give your way out. Give your way out. I had no idea of the connections. You never know who, and it was just, I showed up, I did the event as if they had paid me to do it. And the Orange Bowl came out of that free event. It was a golf tournament. That's what it was. It was a golf tournament that I showed up and served them for free as if they were the president of the United States. I served them with excellence. And I got my next biggest opportunity from that. So now with 5 years under my belt, now guess what? The first no I got was by email. Second was by snail mail. Next was by fax. I did not stop. See, when I wanted a Cabbage Patch doll in 1984, Megan, it took 18 months. I got it finally in 1986. It was the end of 84 when I asked for it. I cut out newspaper, you know, clippings. I imagined all the things that I would do with that Cabbage Patch doll. And, you know, I never lost faith. I said, if I could just get on the aisle and see it and visualize the activities that we were doing. See, I didn't realize that I was living out Think and Grow Rich and the importance of making that decision. It wasn't a choice. It was a decision, a cutting away. I was going to be an owner. I was going to have that Cabbage Patch doll. The same thing happened with the Super Bowl. I said I didn't care which of their events. I didn't care if it was a pregame event. I didn't care which it was. I had not gone through the vendor program. I had not done any of the things. I didn't know to do it. I was still very young and new in business, Megan. Think about what that is like. When someone mails you a letter back to tell you no, fax you a no back, tell you no over the phone. I'm talking about 17 consecutive no. And guess what? That 18th, I said, I'm just going to keep on. I said, I'm going to send another fax. I went down a whole list. I printed out a huge list of all of these different people and chairs and I said, somebody's going to tell me yes. And guess what? The 18th time. So those 17 no's put me closer to that final yes. And
Wow.
guess the rest was history. And it was it wasn't the big game itself, but it was the money event that they do at the stadium before the game with all of the decision makers, everybody, that the who's and the owners. So you can't tell me how good God is. Do you realize the impact that had upon my business? That was a bigger no than what I thought I wanted, which was to cover the game. No, I was in there with all the decision makers, all of those different sponsors, all of the who's that people would pay probably $1 million just to be in that room. I was in there.
Wow. Proximity is power. And God knew that venue was far more important for your trajectory than the other. And wow. And see, that's back to faith. I mean, we have to, and trust in the Lord with all our heart, and lean not on our own understanding, and in all our ways acknowledge him, because he knows we confound it. We, put those twists and turns in. And I often think of the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit as a boardroom, and they're like, oh my God, here she goes again, and with our type A personalities, right? And oh, please just let us do our work, type of thing, and you just continued on and never stopped. And that is truly powerful. And this I knew as I knew that you sharing, and I didn't know a lot. I knew bits and pieces, but I knew as I knew that your life would be very impactful and very, very synergistic with the Propel program, because my heart, again, is, and this now, is to really give back and give people hope and understanding that there's infinite possibilities, but you have to have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, you're just going to go around and around and around in circles. And it's that clarity that is all important. And as you shared earlier, Maybelle and James gave you that, but where did you didn't really say this, but when and how and where did you get the clarity that it was, because you could have gone off because you were a reader, you were a good student, you were a questing of knowledge, so you could have gone into academia, you could have gone so many directions. What led you to this sports dynamic? What was that? Where did that come from?
Well, it was once I realized what a podiatrist, actually, I was originally wanted to be a podiatrist because, I thought it was my grandmother's foot that ended her life. So that's what put me on that trajectory. So it's like, maybe if I just get educated and teach people, like they're, just being young, didn't understand. But I was like, oh, they don't really spend time actually helping people physically get better, overall. And so my advisor at the time was saying, hey, we had them also in high school. So this is high school.
Right.
And
where Jeff Bezos went to high school.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like they worked with us. It wasn't like what people think of high school is like today. They wanted to be sure that you left there with a plan, that you needed every year. Like, where are we going? You're being tracked. So even if you didn't want to go to college, what type of business are you planning to own? Like it was entrepreneurship was very, very much so driven into us at every single grade level, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. So that way, when you leave there, there's no, oh, I don't know what I want to do. No, you do. We've been working with you. So the advisor had said to me, well, have you considered physical therapy? And so I thought, okay, I'd like to go the physical therapy route. And that's how I ended up there. And I only shifted into sports medicine once my university changed a program to a master's program, like it was a mandatory. And I had a daughter and I needed to be able to do something that I can get out with my bachelor's and start to work in the field. So that's how I shifted from the physical therapy program to the sports medicine athletic training program. And I tell you, it's changed my life.
Yes. I was just going to say, what a blessing that was as well. And no offense to physical therapists, but I mean, this is so much more robust and engaging in so many directions that than just being a physical therapist. You know, in the work I do now with the stem cell I'm talking about, I've encountered so many people that have gone to physical therapy before surgery, after surgery, instead of surgery, all those things. And again, I'm not indicting physical therapists, but it's not regenerating the area that has degenerated, you know? And so I, as I said, I never had really a connection with physical therapists until now. And it's very clear that God had a plan for you, my girl, to really impact people in a very different way that that you're doing. Yeah.
Our approach is very different. But you know, there was a biblical story. Like when I was going through those 17 no's in Sunday school, we were learning about there was a woman that kept showing up to this judge, and he just got so tired of her just constantly, because typically women didn't get what she was asking for. And it just got to the point. She was so persistent till he said, "Oh, okay. What is it that you would like?" You know, I forget the chapter, but it's a scripture that talks about this woman that continued to go to the judge and the judges of the time, especially financial decisions, think property and things like that.
Right.
And she was seeking, I forget where it is, but it's in there. It was that story that I was like, man, okay. They keep saying no, but guess what? I'm going to do just like this woman. If it worked for her, it surely can work for me. I don't care how many times I have to ask. I'm going to keep asking. But I was also prepared.
Yeah,
I was prepared for the opportunity.
Let's stay on that for a minute, because again, today in this immediate gratification world and social media, and you see all these folks that are. I was talking to someone today about how fraudulent so many people are about who they are. I mean, it's the Hollywood syndrome, and it's very unfair for people to look at this and then compare themselves, because it really is not immediate. It is truly that journey is what, we were talking earlier about Barbara Majeski, on-air personality with the Today Show, but she speaks all the time about her door-to-door sales because, and this was in the phone industry as that world was changing, but she to this moment makes an income from that. And so but she planted the seeds and did the hard work, and she did it and did it and did it. Nothing is easy. And so it's really a disservice to people to really make them feel that you can do things immediately, and you lose half the fun of the journey.
Absolutely. And see, and I have to take it back to high school, just because they didn't want us to be aimless. I don't care what course you took, whether it was math, science, even PE, you had to have a goal. You had to have a timeline. You had to have an actual target. You weren't allowed to just, I don't know. No, there was structure there, even for fun. Like, all right, what are we going to do? Where are we going to take a trip to? How are we going to get there? What are the resources that are involved? It was just it woven into the fabric of, and we were also talked to as if we were going to be the ones to take over someday. So you being young is not an excuse. You're expected to lead this country, lead your sector. I don't care if you own a moving company or if you are a street cleaner. It didn't matter. Right. You're going to own the cleaning. And I actually have a classmate who owns one of the largest cleaning companies in South Florida. Like, that's exactly what she did. And yes, she is really doing well, but she was prepared. Yes. The applied knowledge. They didn't want us getting knowledge without application, right, and without getting some experience, right, some actual work experience within those various industries. It right. was so ingrained, and that just continued in college.
But you just used the term, a Napoleon Hill term, applied knowledge. He speaks about specialized knowledge, which is like going to college and and then never using it, and then applied knowledge in the trenches and using it, like you said, you're a classmate and building a cleaning company, huge businesses, huge, yes. I mean, these are so important. I have a question. This high school that you went to, was this a public school?
Public school, one of the few Florida schools that was in the top 100.
Wow.
Harvard, Yale, all of the Ivy Leagues would recruit out of that, and it's a small high school still to this day, and I'm so proud of it. Our alumni are just, most of us are so proud of the school. It's called Miami Palmetto Senior High School. It changed my life. There's just no coincidence that you look at the type of greatness. You can go to any of the cabinets in the United States government, and you will find a graduate. You can go to, there's no branch of government that you won't find us. Like, there's every industry, every single industry, even American Idol.
Well, Jeff Bezos is a pretty impactful, example, because again, that the seed time harvest, the seed of that entrepreneurial mindset was in there. Again, back to Napoleon Hill, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, he or she can achieve. But you have to see it and then believe it and take action. And it's without that. I mean, but you have to see it and believe it and then take action. And that's, like you said earlier about, and I don't like to use the word failure. You could categorize it as that, but I look at it as more of just part of the journey, of the learning. It's as important as doing a term paper and maybe not doing as well as, or the missing the certification by 2 points. I mean, it's just part of the journey. It wasn't a failure. It was just part of the journey. And you needed to go back and, polish up and come back and swing the bat one more time, I mean, it's just part of that journey. And it's just delicious to know that it isn't over until it's over, and that over is when you decide that it's over.
Absolutely. In my economics class, I have to tell you, that being taught by not a regular teacher and by someone who was actually a business owner. So you couldn't pass you didn't pass a test if your business lost money. He really wanted us to get it. So we actually used monopoly money. We actually, followed the stock market. Like, he wanted us to have a thorough understanding of economics, business, supply and demand. And he was there was no such thing. You could not fail. You had to what's the lesson? So that's how I got that thing of, it doesn't matter if you fail quick so that you can get the growth. That's literally what he would say to us. He was off the frame, we used to think, but I'm so grateful. So grateful for Mr. Turner. You could see we're all the fruits of his labor. He didn't need to teach. That was his way of giving back to the community. But it was he taught us through failure. Like, okay, you lost money. Why did you lose money? It was just that you don't stop. Just because you lost money, that doesn't mean you don't give up. You don't stop there. There's a lesson. And now you can recover and move on from that. I got that in high school.
Wow. Yep. Fail forward. And that's the lesson of the talents, that the master gave them, 3 people, right? And it's what they did with it. So yes, it's wow. We could talk till tomorrow. And Napoleon and Sharon, I was thinking about Sharon, and she'd be so thrilled because her well, I'm not going to say this because I'm going to ask you my final question. In 3 Feet from Gold, there is a Sharon Lecter's success formula. And basically, I'm not going to do the whole formula, but the point is it's your talent plus passion to action and so forth. My question to you, though, is, because we've spoken about many things and you are a passionate person in what you do. You love growth, you love learning, you love people, you're Maybelle's granddaughter. What, though, is your passion and what is your purpose?
Health education that keeps it 100 so that people can live beyond 100. See, there's a lie that's gone out into the world. People don't realize that God said that man days can be 120 years. 60 years is not enough. That's halfway. You're still young. 70, you're still young. You're not grown, I feel, until you're 80. That when you approach the 8th floor, then you can say that you're really grown. But I really truly want people, because think about the gifts that have been placed into people. It's going to take 100 years for many of these gifts to come to fruition, for God to accomplish his purpose. Why are we not aiming? See, when a runner runs, an Olympian, when they're doing the track and field, they're not just running to the line. You have to run past the line to actually have a chance at winning the race. So I don't want people's aim to just be 80, to just be 90. I want you to aim past, go for the 120 that God says. So if you happen to end up at 112, hey, that's a good day. But I want us to be centenarians. I want us to know also how to save a life. That's why heart health is such an interwoven. I couldn't save my grandmother, but maybe I can save someone else's. So I continue on this path to make sure that I'm putting out health education that's real, that's practical, so that others can live beyond 100. That's it.
Wow.
Health information that keeps it 100 so you can get beyond 100.
Well, there's no accidents that why you and I have met. There's no accident, because you've heard you use the 8th floor there, a statement like Barbara uses. And I don't know if you were in the room last or 2 weeks ago when she said to me about,
Yes.
don't let Megan, what I like about you is you don't let your age be your cage. And, and I was like, that's it, girl, that's it. Because again, it's not about a number. It's about my mission at hand and what I'm doing. So it matters not what birthday it is or what have you. I mentioned my father and mom, passing at 96 and 94. She was the older woman, by the way. And so he would always say, Shawnte, Will and I, her name was Wilhelmina, and he called her Will. He said, Will and I, we're going to live to 102. Now, she had some circulatory issues, but she never let them, overtake. Will and Ray, they just lived life. But she just had a little incident and she folded the tent. So he, it was like the Notebook. He didn't want to be on the planet without her. So he had the Guinness Book of World Records passing on to heaven. He just, Super Bowl, you mentioned the Super Bowl. So after she passed, he stayed in New Jersey at my sister's. And he was a dapper kind of guy and always got dressed and wore whatever. And so this Super Bowl was coming, and she has a large family. And he said, Mary, I want a party, and I want eggplant parmesan, 2-inch shrimps, viadellas. Those are like cannolis in a kind of a shell shape. And it was for the Super Bowl, because remember I said he had a football scholarship because he loved football. So anyway, so everyone came, the whole family, and they watched the Super Bowl. And then the next morning after the Super Bowl, he didn't get up right away. And she came down and said, Dad, what's going on? She made him eggs and bacon, a little protein after the sugar he had, right? He went back to bed and passed. So he had his last supper, his last breakfast. He was fully dressed, and he just.
Oh my God! But he did it his way.
He did it his way, Shawnte.
Oh, beautiful.
He did it his way. And so Ray, we're talking about your grandmother and Maybelle and James and Ray and Wilma. It doesn't have to be by, that, again, it's what you see and believe. So, when I share with people, not because I'm saying my age, but because I want people to understand. I never used to share my age at all, but I want people to understand that I'm just keeping on.
Yes, it's inspiring.
And that's it. Yes, I'm using it now as a tool.
Yes.
And people are like, really?
Yes.
This type of thing. And it should be inspiring to keep going, but it has to be doing what you're passionate about.
Yes, it's the hope. That's the thing that I've always got from you. That's why I just, when God put you in my spirit, I was like, I hope she says yes. Because hope, every single time I've ever heard you speak, I
Yes.
always walked away. I was like, man, what is this thing? I just always feel like she's on hope lane. It's like she's making sure that we don't lose hope. And it's just, I was like, we got to unpack this. I need more women to hear this. You know, you're inspiring. I'm so glad you speak up about your age. Like, it's instilling more hope in us.
It
Thank you.
is. Well, thank you. But I realize, I mean, the Holy Spirit has said, it's time, girl. It's time to share that. And again, the subheading of my book, it's never too early or too late to create the life of your dreams. You know, I've had employees for lots of years, and people with these gals, and I'm mentoring these people, and they was like, well, I'm 26, and you know, I really don't know what I want to do. Excuse me, you're just beginning, so it will come, you know. So it's never too early or too late, but you have to start and not stop, because along that journey, there's hope and infinite possibilities just over the horizon. That's Ray's line, by the way. Ray, I'm one of
Aw.
4 kids, and we lived in a very blue collar a neighborhood, which was fabulous. And we went to Catholic school, so we wore uniforms. And Dad, I need a new pair of saddle shoes. Yeah, when my ship comes in over the horizon.
I remember those type of phrases.
Like, over the horizon, keep going, wear the shoes. You know, so we're very blessed, my friend, to have had Maybelle and James and Ray and Wilma and so
Yes.
forth. Yes, it's very, very much so. Mentors are so, so important.
Yes.
And so next time we get together, we'll speak about that, maybe in another genre, maybe one of my programs, you know, because mentorship is key to growing and going, because you cannot do it by yourself.
Absolutely.
You cannot.
Absolutely.
You cannot. So,
Oh,
my love, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
it's been my pleasure. Thank you so very much. We
And
appreciate it. Love
we're
you.
beginning. And now, did you start the book study yet with Man's
Search for meaning, yes. We started part 1. We didn't get very far because there were so many shares like around it. So we're gonna do part 2, and then you and I will be discussing this on Saturday. So I hope that people will come to then listen into that interview. But May 14th. In Breakfast with Champions, we will be discussing at 7:45 at night. We will be discussing this book further, part 2. So I hope people will come, and they can also check out the replays. But yes, we're just starting to go through it. So super excited.
Okay. Well, I need guidance from you. So, because our interview is this Saturday on Clubhouse, correct?
Yes, ma'am. At
Yes.
7 a.m. Eastern.
7 a.m. Eastern. So, folks, if you're not up on Clubhouse, the audio app, you need to. And Shawnte will be interviewing me. And it's part of, you know, and the essence is about Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. So, yes, yes, and yes. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you. If you'd like to hang out in the green room, I'll be there in a minute. Thank you. Wow. You know, guys, I love doing this. I'm sure you can see, because I have the blessing of bringing these amazing people, these leaders and legends in their fields. But it's not just that Shawnte is just a major leader in her field of sports medicine and training and speaking and coaching. But what a heart, what a beautiful heart and compassion to bring to all of us things that are going to expand our horizons. So do come back next week as we interview. Next week, I have an amazing guest that you are going to so enjoy. And I'm not going to go on about that, but it is every Wednesday at 8 o'clock Eastern. But I know that Angeline has put in the trailer the links to join the Propel community, but also to go to YouTube and subscribe to the Propel YouTube page, because it really helps people find us and get involved with us in what we do. But also join the Propel community, because you will then get notifications of things like the Propel Deep Dive Global that we just did, and other things that are part of the Propel community. Also, we have a Leaders and Legends a resource page. So Shawnte Health Wells, her information is there, where you can then go to all her social media, contact her, and go to her YouTube page and other areas that she has information. So it's so robust, it's so rich, that I'm talking about the Propel community. And we have other exciting things coming to it as well. So we'll see you next Wednesday on the Propel Deep Dive Global with my guest, David Hill. And so we'll see you then, but hopefully in the Propel community as well. Be blessed.
Hello, peace. Hello, joy.